It's come up quite a bit that Konami is one of the bright spots of the Famicom Disk System. You got other big developers and publishers who are consistently good on it, but they only made 2 or 3 Disk System games. Konami, on the other hand, went heavy on the Disk System, publishing more games for it than anyone except Nintendo. And Nintendo padded their numbers with a lot of 2-disc releases and reprints. And while not every Konami game was a hit, the quality of their games on the platform was generally a lot higher. Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa is one of Konami's high points for the Disk System. It might not make my top 3 games that you have to have for the Famicom Disk System, but it would probably fit into my top 5. I have to point out that I covered this game already when I went through the Famicom library. Bio Miracle was one of 3 games that Konami re-released on cartridge in 1993. That version added an easy mode and also lost some sound channels. Unless you're having a really hard time with Bio Miracle, you probably want to play the Disk System version. It's also considerably cheaper. The Bio Miracle cartridge is one of the most expensive Famicom games. I talked about this when I discussed the cartridge, but if I don't say something here, then there will be plenty of comments about it. Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa was not distributed on pirate carts as Baby Mario. The title they used was Mario Baby. The plot of Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa is that Upa is a baby prince who was an amazingly advanced 1-month-old. While crawling around one day, something he shouldn't be capable of for at least another 6 months, Upa breaks a jar containing the Demon King Zai. Zai steals everyone's dreams, but because his powers don't work on babies, he also kidnaps all of them. Fortunately, fairies decide to help Upa, and they give him the Gara sword, which isn't a sword, it's a magic rattle. Since this mess is all his fault, Upa goes out to take care of it. Baby's Day Out winds up being a side-scrolling platformer, and Upa is an amazingly maneuverable baby. He can jump super high when you hit the A button, eat his way through mountains of cake, and I am positive that is not good for a 1-year-old. He doesn't even have teeth yet. And Upa can even swim in the depths of the ocean, and even people trying to sell you baby swimming classes will tell you that 1 month is too soon for a baby to swim. Upa does have a few weaknesses though. If he falls about 20 feet, then he gets stunned for a few seconds. But he'll just bounce back. Babies are resilient that way. Naturally, Upa's strongest ability is the Gara sword. You hit B to swing the rattle and attack enemies, and any little monster that you strike becomes inflated. Then Upa can ride it up as a platform, or jump into the inflated enemy to knock them away, hurting whatever they collide with. The bosses at the end of every stage will either spit out a stream of enemies for you, or some enemies will drop into the arena, and you'll have to inflate those small fry and knock them around in order to defeat the boss. Every world has 3 stages, and the boss for the first 2 stages in every world is always this pig. Then the boss of the 3rd stage will be something different. Upa can also use the Gara sword to knock open bricks with his face on them, and these will contain useful items. The most helpful of which is a heart, which will expand Upa's life gauge. Initially, Upa only has 2 hearts, but as he consumes more of them, those hearts will multiply. The most he can have is 5, and hearts that you've earned like this are kept through the end of the world. So you don't lose them when you die, but you do lose them when you move on to the next world, or when you get a game over and continue. You can also find milk that will restore your health, and apples that are just worth points. Collecting an hourglass will freeze all enemies for a while, though if you hit them with the Gara sword, they'll still float up. And naturally you can find extra lives, though those are only in a couple of places, or found by guessing the correct chest at the end of a world. Finally, there's the bell which will make Upa stand up and run around. Upa moves faster like this, and he's invincible, but he can't swing the Gara sword. Maybe the most notable thing about Bio Miracle, besides its protagonist, is the unique collection of level themes. Stage 1 takes place in a world made of candy and cakes, but after you've had your sweets, World 2 is all about vegetables. And I can't help but notice that Upa doesn't seem to eat any of the vegetables. World 3 is the boring one because that's the ice world. It's exactly what you'd expect an ice world to be. But then World 4 takes place inside a computer, and it has one of the most distinctive stages where everything is flipped upside down. World 5 is based on stationery, so paper products, rulers, pencils, tape. Maybe the person who came up with this one was just looking around on their desk for an idea. And then World 6 is all milk-themed. I didn't get that far while I was recording. World 7 wraps up the game at Zai's castle. Obviously, people loved it in Japan. Well, the ones who could play it. Apparently it sold extremely poorly, and that was entirely due to the disk system really going out of style. However, since people liked Upa so much, he kept turning up in Konami games. He'll be featured in YY World 2, and he flies through space in the Parodius series. Like I said, Bio Miracle Bokutte Upa is a classic 8-bit platformer. And if you want to play it, the disk system version is the one to get. This is a game with a lot of charm and a lot of Konami polish. And even though I'm only in April in my progression, I'm just going to say that this is the FDS's Game of the Year for 1988.